Welcome to Prompt Me Podcast. Today's guest is Isaias Hiram Urrabazo. Isaiah is an accomplished artist, singer, actor, public speaker, and costume designer. He's currently head of wardrobe at Magic Mike Live, Las Vegas. For the past few years, he's been sculpting Halloween folk art and Day of the Dead artwork. His annual installation is currently showing in the Springs Preserve Dia de los Muertos Festival in Las Vegas, Nevada, in addition to a current exhibit this week here in Salt Lake City, Utah. We were lucky to catch up with him as he was heading back to Vegas. Welcome, Isaiah.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Thank you.
Glad you just happened to be passing through and could stop by and talk to us.
Yeah, just that passing through, real quick and then back to Vegas, So thank you for having me today.
And where did you just come from then?
I came from Miami. I'm currently working on the Magic Mike Live tour. And so I was out there doing some finishing touches. And now I'm back here quickly to attend the opening of my exhibit at the Pioneer Theatre. And so we're here to do that real quick. And then we head back to Vegas for another art installation, a very big one, actually. So we have a very short turnaround for that one coming up. So
that's great.
Yeah,
that's great. So tell us a little more about this show. What was the opening last night?
Well, last night was the opening of this exhibit that I did that deals with the Day of the Dead, which is Dia de los Muertos in Spanish. And it's a collection of art that I've actually, some of it is some of my older pieces and some are new. When viewing this type of exhibit that I put together, we're dealing with celebrating life and not death. And so there are things that are in this exhibit that have very deep meaning culturally that are connected to the Day of the Dead. And so when you go and view it, you'll see these things. And there is meaning in everything that you see. We happen to put up an ofrenda, which in English it's an altar. And in this ofrenda, there's a lot of meaning, and just every single thing in there has some kind of story or some kind of meaning behind it that helps you understand what is really happening.
Okay.
So what medium are you working in? Unfortunately, I haven't seen the exhibit yet, and I'm going to go up in the next couple of days, but I've seen your work and I love it. As for our listeners, they don't know what kind of work you do. So what's the medium that you're working in?
Well, the medium that I work in is paper clay. It is mixed media, most of my stuff there. So you'll see sculptures, you'll see paintings, but everything is you see things that are what would you call, found objects that I've actually turned into something else. So that's what I work with a lot of times, is these found objects and creating something new, which is really it takes us to the storytelling of this thing, the rebirth part of things, creating something new out of something old, or something new and turning it into something new again. So that's how I look at this thing, this whole rebirth of things too.
I love that. You mentioned that every single thing has a meaning behind it. Can you just give one example of one piece on the altar of what it represents, or its story, its meaning? Just one, because I know you have lots of pieces that have lots of meaning on there.
What you're going to see in this exhibit is, especially the ofrenda, there is a monarch butterfly, and the monarch butterfly, the migration of the monarch butterfly just happens to coincide with the celebration of the Day of the Dead. And so their migration is very important to this holiday, this sacred holiday. So what we believe is that the monarch butterfly is actually the returning of the spirits of our loved ones. And so when you see this monarch butterfly, it represents them. It represents their return, their yearly return. So, so when you're seeing this, that visual of, if you've ever seen any of the monarch videos of them all over the trees, you can visually see that, wow, if I had my loved ones returning like that, what an amazing thing that would be. Just that visual alone. And I hope that your listeners can visualize that as I'm talking about it, just that visualization of all these monarchs coming back, returning in this beautiful, beautiful group of butterflies.
I love that. That's
I want to see it.
It's very heart opening. I'm just.
Yeah.
So how did you start creating in this way? Because first of all, I want to mention you are, in general, just a creative person. Your job is a very creative job. You're doing costuming.
Yes. Yeah, at the moment.
Yeah. And you've done costuming for Phantom of the Opera and...
Well, what I did is when I worked on Phantom of the Opera, I worked as a dresser. So I worked behind the scenes. So I dealt with getting the actors ready. In the capacity that I'm at right now at Magic Mike, I am the head of wardrobe, but I also am the purchaser for all the things that you see on stage. When things start to fall apart, I'm the one that's out there buying some stuff for the Magic Mike Live production in Las Vegas. So in that capacity, that's where I'm at. But I've also designed local community theater shows in Las Vegas. And so that has always been a part of the creative side of me. When I was younger, I actually started off as a singer. So that was my career before this whole costuming thing and costume design. So at the age of 8 years old, I used to travel around the city in Las Vegas and sing at different churches. And then I started to get, as I started to get a little bit older, I started to sing at more big events, getting senatorial recognition for my singing, all that. And then I had this gigantic turnaround into the world of costume design and costumes. So.
And how did you end up in that? It seems that, I mean, I understand all the workings of all those pieces, but how did you make that leap from?
It's one of those careers and jobs that people don't even think about.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
One of those, I didn't realize there's someone has to deal with all of that stuff.
Yeah.
People in the audience aren't thinking about that.
No. I'll go back to when I was a kid. I actually had a career day and I was in 5th grade. It's very vivid to me to this day. I was in 5th grade and we were asked to bring a career box. And when bringing that career box in, I was the only boy to bring in a fashion design box. And I can remember that day vividly because the kids started to make fun of me. And that day, I was so proud of that box, that fashion box, that I thought, after that, I thought this was something I would never do. So many years later, I was at the university, UNLV in Las Vegas, and I decided that I wanted to be in one of the musicals that they were going to have there. And I knew they had a costume shop there. And I decided that I would also take a costume design class, and it all became full circle. The years of pain that I carried from the past actually turned into joy again. It sparked something new in me, something creative that I had always had within me. Because as I grew up singing, I started to work on my own clothes. So I already had that still in me. But then I was able to work in this costume shop where it was that safe place to actually learn and take in this atmosphere that I had once dreamed about as a child was now happening. And it was happening very quickly. So I feel very blessed to have the mentors that I did at that time to really just take a hold of that with me and just decide. The costume shop manager one evening said, it was late at night and we were working in the costume shop. And she said, do you know how to sew? And I said, no, I really don't. And she said, well, here's your chance. She put a brown piece of paper on this industrial sewing machine, which is like a monster, very scary. And she drew some circles and she says, I want you to follow the circles and you're going to start to sew. And so I did that. And she took the brown paper away and she gave me a stack of skirts and I started sewing. And so, as a child too, I watched my grandmother sew. So these are things that all become full circle. And it's just this awakening that happens, that was always there. And it reminds me of the thing all the time that I tell people is that everything is possible, not impossible. So, and my mother instilled that in me, really, that it was all possible. And so those are that's just a glimpse of how I got into that, this world of costuming, but, that pain then became joy. So, it's one of just an awakening moment,
Yeah. How great you've been able to just make your whole life out of this main passion of yours. And it sounds like it all ties into your artwork as well. That there's not a huge jump between what you're doing as this job and your art creations. There's probably a lot of creative overlay.
Oh, yeah. It's all connected.
Yeah.
It's all connected in this way. I never thought I would do Day of the Dead art. It was just not something I thought I would do because I was brought up in an evangelical home. That stuff was not stuff that we would even think about doing. But one day it just happened. And I was doing Halloween art, and even that was kind of a no-no. In the years earlier, and Mom was a little bit hesitant when I started to say that I was going to do this Halloween art. But yeah, it's just, it all ties in together in this way that, weird way, and you sometimes just get this spark and it happens,
Yeah. It's great. You've obviously known that you wanted to do this and be these things since you were little.
Yeah.
That's a rare gift that people get to do that.
Yeah,
And you probably know that.
Well, I feel blessed that I had a great foundation, two parents that really just set that within us. And I can go back to, it's really having a mother that really came here to the United States as a young girl from Mexico that had a dream of her own, an American dream that she wanted for her own children. And she had, this dream was then passed on to her children. And she wanted to see them grow up to be their best and wanted them to achieve what they wanted to achieve in life, and that it was all possible. And she believed it because she saw it happening to herself as she grew up here in the United States. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
I think it's underestimated how important that support can be from a parent. I know some parents don't support them going into the arts at all, and to believe in and let people explore that way.
Yeah, you have this, when I go talk to young people, I realize that the support is not always there.
Yeah.
But I always tell them, there is somebody there. Find them, or they will find you. And you just have to believe them too, as much as you believe in yourself. You have to believe them too. They are there for a reason. And they come into your life at strange times. But it's really, you have to want to, I guess you just have to recognize it at those moments and accept it. and say, yeah, they're here for me too. And so I always remind young people that there's always somebody there. Because I do realize that a lot of young people nowadays, they don't have that support. And the arts are sometimes going away quickly, and they're not looked at and respected in the same way as other jobs or opportunities in life. But we, I always try to find a way to encourage young people, plant something, a little bit of information, or what we can call is a seed.
Yeah.
And hopefully somebody will help them water it, or they will do it themselves, and it'll grow into something beautiful,
Right.
So as you're doing your creative process, what is that? Do you get an idea and sit down and do it, or is it something that germinates for a long time, or do you set time aside to, schedule a time that you do that? Like, how does your creative process? Because yours sounds, which I think this is true for a lot of people, but it's very close to your heart and very. So I'm just wondering, how do you put that into the logistics of actually creating? Does that make sense?
Yeah, as artists, there's all different types of process, So there are some artists that actually sit down and sketch an idea and have it planned out from the paints to the clay to everything, how this whole process is going to happen. For me, it's not like that. I can tell you that when going to the store, I can see a found object, I find it, and it sparks something in me. And I see something different. It's not as it looks. I actually see something being created in front of me. And I also dream these things. And I explain it in a way that it's some kind of spiritual experience for me, in the way it comes, in the way it speaks to me. And there are people that I meet too that Stephen always wonders if some of these people that I encounter, he says, do you know these people? Do you know them? Did you know that person? And I'm like, no, I didn't. It was just, they looked at me and we started to have a conversation. And sometimes from those conversations, an idea is sparked. And sometimes I don't get to it right away, but I can sit with some clay or the found object and in front of me, and I start to create it there. And that's kind of my process. Even when we do this large installation for the Day of the Dead at the Springs Preserve in Las Vegas, I have a small team of people that come and help, and they're usually the family, and they don't know what's going to happen. And I tell them, okay, you put this here, you put this there, and it's actually being created. It's all in my head, but it's being created as they put it out. And so nobody sees what really it's going to look like until it is finished. There is no sketch. There is no the only notes there are Stephen, my husband's, a list of things that we need: marigolds, glue, tape, screw guns, cords, candles, all these things. And so that's where they see the paperwork, what's there, and then 70 pots of sunflowers, that we're bringing, and thousands of marigold strands, So that's what they see on paperwork, but nothing else. So when it's completed, they also get a surprise too. It's that moment, a revealing moment, that it is not just my work. It is their work too. I always think of it as our work when we finish it, because their hands are doing just the same amount of work. They're part of this creative process that'll eventually turn into something that I hope is beautiful and will speak to people. So I always remind them that too. I remind my family that they are a part of this creative process with me. And that's why they do it with me. And I'm the youngest of 7. So they like to say, oh, you're mom's golden child, And so when I'm telling them what to do, all my older brothers and sisters, they're kind of laughing that the youngest is now telling them what to do,
Right.
And it's a really interesting moment in that creative process. So, but I love them all, and I know they love me. So.
And how
That's
many
lucky.
years have you done this exhibit?
The one in Las Vegas, we've done it probably for the past, it's going to be 5 years, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I think 5 years is where we're at. And every year it's been pretty special. It's grown from a very small, intimate thing to now a very large installation. It's an emotional experience too after it's completed, and we see people coming to visit it. This installation that I do now, I visualize it as a church with no walls. So you see these church-like windows surrounded by all these trees and all these beautiful plants, and then you see the sky. And so it is an open church to believe whatever you want to believe. And that's what we invite people to into that space. And it becomes, as one person that came to talk to me about it, it becomes a sacred space to them too. And we have people, because going back to what the Day of the Dead is, we happen to get people that when they see the installation there, they cry, they pray, they grieve, and it is a part of their process. And it opens up another door to things. And we are there watching this happen. Because as we're putting some of this together in the past few years, it was part of how we were healing too, through my dad's death, and also my mother's. So it's a healing process that we also go through too when putting this together. It's a labor of love, but also for the people that come and see it, it also speaks to them in that way. They get connected to it too in some way. And there are others that just view it as an installation. And, but there are others that find deep meaning in it.
Which is how I think art generally should work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It speaks to some and others it doesn't. And it's not for everyone, and that's okay. And I think that's what, sometimes it'll make an impact and sometimes it won't be. It won't. So and that's okay, This just happens to be tied with a sacred holiday that deals with grief, but also celebrating life. So it's a very interesting thing to delve into this art in this way.
That's great. I can't wait to see it.
What are the dates it's generally up in Vegas?
In Vegas, it falls on the weekend after the real Day of the Dead. So right now it'll fall on the 4th, 5th, and 6th at the Springs Reserve, November 4th, 5th, and 6th. The Day of the Dead celebration usually happens on the 1st and the 2nd of November.
Right.
So it's up for 3 days.
It's up for 3 days only.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like there was a moment earlier too that I feel like we're kind of holding like this little Easter egg surprise sitting here. We have a mystery guest sitting in the studio. Right next to Isaiah is his husband, Stephen Fair, who was our third guest, right? on the podcast. So those of you who've listened, he's been quietly sitting here, and I thought just a perfect thought was, oh, hi, Steve. How are you doing?
I didn't want to steal my husband's thunder. So
well, I just thought it was so when you were talking about finding support. I know you guys have had each other, big supporters of each other, two artists like that. Would you care to talk about how important that has been?
Yeah, I mean, before I do talk about that, I want to talk about one other thing we hit on. So Isaiah's creative process is so much different than mine. Like I'm someone that really has to plan things out and sort of sketch them before I do them and know what's going to happen before they happen. And he's so opposite of that. Like he's very intuitive and very just. He gets an inspiration. Like like he was saying, he'll go to the store and he'll see some object, and sometimes he doesn't even necessarily know what he wants to do with that object. He just sees it, and he's like, "Ooh, I can do something amazing with this." And then he'll go home and he'll just start creating something, and I'll be upstairs doing whatever I'm doing, and I'll come downstairs, and there will be this amazing piece of art. And my brain doesn't work the same way his does. And I'm like, how did this amazing idea come to you? So, so as far as supporting, it's interesting because like our house, is right now, especially with all the work that you've been doing, it's like a disaster zone, but I know that that's going to happen. Like that's right. Just the way it is. He's just got all of his equipment and stuff out. But I've always tried to, I think he would agree with me on this too. We've always tried to really support each other's art, whatever that art is. I'm an actor and he's more of a, costumer and a creative artist as far as like painting and sculpture and that sort of thing. But I think it's really important I think that was just part of the deal when we got married and when we, are together is like, we're just going to support each other and let each other thrive however each of us needs to thrive. And so I hope he feels that I have tried to be very supportive. Even this art show that he's doing here in Utah, a friend of mine, so I used to work at Pioneer Theatre as an actor, and a friend of mine who's the resident set designer there is the one who's in charge of like procuring artists for the Loge Gallery, which is where his stuff is exhibited. And he contacted me and he said, "Hey, do you think your husband would be interested in having an exhibition here?" And I was just I told Isaiah, I said, I think this is because Isaiah was so busy and we knew he was going to be busy during that time, especially because we knew this Springs Preserve thing in Nevada was coming up. We had this show that we did in Petaluma, California. And so this was right in the middle of that. And we knew it was going to be a very busy thing. But I said to him, I think this is such a good opportunity for you. It opens your work to a new audience that has never seen your work before. And they even said at Pioneer Theatre that they've not done this type of cultural show before. This is the first, kind of Day of the Dead sort of inspired art show that's ever been done there. And I just thought it was really important, even though I knew it was going to be a very busy, stressful time. But so yeah, his whole family has been so supportive of him. When we do this thing in Las Vegas, it's like he says, we just all get together, not knowing at all what the final product is going to be, and just sort of listen to the head of the creative process tell us that goes there, this goes there, and suddenly this really beautiful, terrific thing is created out of it.
That's great. I've thought a lot lately about and had other talks with friends about does art even exist without support, without other people? I know there can be artists totally alone, but if we've probably never heard of them unless someone gave them a chance or a voice or some support. I think even when we think we're doing things on our own, if we're really honest, if we're doing anything that anybody else has seen, someone has helped us. And if you don't acknowledge the support and friends and love you have that helped you do something, you're probably being slightly dishonest about it. So,
I just want to also go back to why this was very important for me to do this here. After my mom passed away, I had went up to Stephen and I said, Stephen, Mom has not visited me in a dream. I don't understand why. And I thought after my dad had passed, I wasn't surprised that I didn't have a dream about him right away. But the connection that I had with my mother, I thought, oh, she definitely is going to come to me right away. She's definitely going to be there, everything like that. And that did not happen. So when it finally did happen, the dream was I walked into a room and Mom was packing a suitcase. And I said, Mom, where are you going? And she says, I'm moving to Utah. So Mom had always wanted to live here in Utah. So she's finally here. And that's why I believe that this show is so important, that the first real solo showing of my work that deals a lot with her passing and celebrating her life is actually here. So it is an important thing to be here in that way. And so there was also a question of, did I want to do just a partial, like, share this space with somebody else? And I said no. And I thought, this is going to challenge me to really tell Mom's story, but not only her story, my family's story. So that's where this supportive husband of mine supported me in all this craziness and trying to get everything ready for this show,
That's great.
Yeah, the symbolism of that is really beautiful, just the dream and the moving is really beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that.
One thing I wanted to say about Isaiah's art, about this particular show too. So Isaiah's art is always, always very colorful and very vibrant and just very alive. And, a lot of this particular show has come out of a deep place of grief and loss. And I just always find it amazing that he is able to channel that grief and that loss into such beauty. And that's what I really love about his art and his personality and who he is he's always trying to find the light and the color and the beauty, even out of the most kind of terrible things.
Yeah.
That brings me back to a thought I had earlier when you were talking about the process of your art and processing grief as you're creating it.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, I think I get what you're saying, For me, I can tell you there's a piece that brought up some trauma that I had when my grandmother passed away. Some deep trauma of, this is kind of a very deep story, but, when my grandmother passed away, she had always known me as a singer. My grandmother did. And so there were family members that asked that I not sing in the church because of my sexuality and not be a part of her service. And so with that, I dealt with a lot of trauma. And I dealt with this trauma with also my mother, because my mother was very deeply hurt by this when the family came to talk to her and say that I could not sing on the pulpit or be a part of the service, and because of my sexuality. And that was actually the specific reason. So the last years of Mom's life were very she was very troubled by this. She had deep pain. And because I was so close with her, I felt that pain too. So in conversations about this, on the last years of her life, Mom would cry and I would cry. Well, when she passed away, there was a bag that looked like rags under her bed that eventually I found out that were pieces of unfinished quilt that my grandmother had put together. And Mom had talked about them being finished one day. But if anybody else would have gone in there, they would have thought they were just rags. But I took that bag and I created a piece called Unfinished Finished. And with that, I processed a lot of things. It was about letting go of some of this trauma and focusing it somewhere else and starting to let go of that grief. Because now Mom was in a better place. And I believe that. I believe that she was in a better place where she has been released of all this pain and released of all the grief. So in that, in sewing each stitch to finish this piece over this quilt that my grandmother had hand stitched with her hands, and then Mom was she finished, I finished it and I made it into something else different. And I started to process that. And I did this in one night. I started to really, with each stitch that came around this sacred heart, actually was like this release, because it was painful to do it, because I had to stand there and actually sew standing up. And then even the hot glue that I used, there was that moment of getting burned by the hot glue. But in this, you're releasing this. And then when it's finally finished, you say, I get it. I get it, Mom. I get it, Grandma. You still love me. I still love you. This is time to move forward. So it doesn't mean that we forget about what happened to us and that we don't deal with it, and that it still doesn't pop up from time to time, but it helps us get through the mud. And I always explain it like this. Sometimes we're covered in mud and we're stuck in it. But sometimes we have that water next to us. And we can take that and start to wash ourselves off and start to get ourselves unstuck. And that's what I look at it. We get ourselves unstuck for a little bit. And that helps us take one foot out and then the next. And then we start to move forward little by little. And everybody has a different process. It doesn't happen overnight for people. Because grieving can last a lifetime, as we know. Trauma can last a lifetime. But it's just something how I'm dealing with this grief in this way. And everything that is about Mom in that. There's another piece called Mom's Last Tortilla. When I am rolling out the clay for these sculptures that I make, I'm doing the same motion that I saw all these years doing, the back and forth of rolling out like she rolled out tortillas. The same way that Mom would get the little balls of masa together for the tortillas, I do so I can create the flowers, the clay flowers that are on my art. The same way that Grandma put the masa on the corn husk to make tamales is the same motion I do when spreading out paint or spreading out the clay with water to make it smoother, and that back and forth motion. So my hands are their hands. So you see that how that creativeness is coming out because I've been blessed by what they've given me. And I was thinking, I said, when I looked at this piece, this guitar piece that I made, I remembered too, I said, I know why that came to me too. Because my grandfather used to play guitar in front of me and sing these old hymns in Spanish. And it reminded me, it sparked that image of him sitting there while I sat at his feet after just coming from grandma's bedroom where I prayed with her for everybody in the family for about an hour. We would be praying, and then I would go to the living room and spend time with my grandfather while he played these old hymns and sang them in Spanish. And actually their favorite song was How Great Thou Art. So that's, just that whole thing is just sparks a lot of memories also, joyous memories, not just in pain, and like I say, amongst all the pain, there is beauty there. There is beauty there. There is faith, there is hope, and there is love. So that's what I see it as.
That is beautiful.
As you say that and you talk about the singing of your grandfather, and I know how great of a singer you are, would it be possible for you to just sing a little bit of that memory of How Great Thou Art right now?
Yeah, I if I can remember the words. O Lord my God, when I in awesome wonder consider all thy hands,
Worlds
thy hands have made. I see the stars, I hear the rolling thunder throughout the universe displayed. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art.
See, that
Beautiful.
goes back to
Thank
support.
I was going to say, that's exactly what I thought. You're here to support each other.
We're here to support each other
Yeah.
when we forget the words.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, thank you.
That's awesome.
Thank you. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're so lucky you guys just happen to be literally coming through. So, and what good timing with your art thing and it being a couple days before Halloween right now and Day of the Dead the next day. And so we'll try to get this up right away. Yeah.
I think the final piece of the podcast is the part where you leave us a prompt. And for anybody who may be listening to this episode as the first one, we ask our guests to leave us a creative prompt at the end. And I just want to clarify, that doesn't mean you have to go create art in what we may define as art, such as a painting or drawing or music. Art can be creating a garden. Art can be inventing a dish of food. Art can be driving down the street and daydreaming from this prompt that maybe never goes on beyond the daydream, but we just like to leave our listeners with a prompt that they can take away and build on what you've just given us, this beautiful gift you've just given us. So I invite you to give us a prompt.
Mine would be creating love with light. I think that that is what I would like to share. Because I think that right now we all need that love and we all need that light. And I think that that is something that I think your listeners can create many things with.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Isaias, and thank you, Stephen.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you both for having me. It's been a real pleasure sharing my mother's story, my family's story with the both of you, and also to your listeners. And I hope that they can see that Dia de los Muertos is about celebrating life and all the beautiful memories that our family has left us and their great legacies. And I am just part of my mother's great legacy, and I'm part of her great story that will continue to live on with me, and I hope the rest of the family. Thank you.
Thank you, Isaias and Stephen. If you would like to see more of Isaias's artwork, go to the links in the show notes, and there are many places that you can see that. Also, if you would like to hear more about Stephen's work, please take a listen to episode 3. Our prompt for this episode is creating love with light. So take that, be inspired by it, create something wonderful, and if you feel so inclined, please share it with us at #PromptMePodcast. I'm Kendra Fair with John Hancock. Thank you so much for listening.